it's Carrie here, and I am so excited that you're joining me for this episode of the She Means Business show, because I am sharing an incredible conversation that I had with the amazing Susan Ferraro. So we hopped on a Zoom call and had a phenomenal chat about, oh my gosh, so much good stuff about the law of attraction. But really, honestly, it was just so beyond that. It was just really about actually how we can all create more success and how we can live our best lives and build successful businesses and achieve amazing things in a way where we're so connected with ourselves. It's about finding a way back to self-love and self-care and saying that we matter, knowing that you matter, knowing that you are worthy, knowing that you do deserve to create so much success. And it's so powerful. For me, what we talk about in this episode is more powerful than any marketing strategy out there, because when you put this into practice, the success, the inspiration, the ideas, the opportunities that can flow from it are just huge. And I've experienced this over and over and over again in my own life. So I'm really excited for you to just dive in. It's going to open you up, and I've got a little challenge for you in it as well, to take action on some of the things that Susan's sharing, because it's so powerful. And we talk about, going after goals that you think you want, and then you actually achieve them and you realize actually that wasn't what I wanted at all. We talk about how to actually be the match for the money that you want, how to actually get the money and create the financial abundance that you want in your life. So Susan's got incredible things to share. She is the creator of the Easy Peasy Law of Attraction system and Easy Money, and she's just got, honestly, so much goodness. So I'm going to share with you this incredible conversation. So enjoy. You are watching the She Means Business show with me, Carrie Green. I'm the founder of the Female Entrepreneur Association and the author of the best-selling book, She Means Business. And every single week, I'm going to be talking with you about how you can turn your ideas into a wildly successful business and actually live the life of your dreams. You can do this, and I'm so excited to show you how. So let's get started. Well, I'm very excited to introduce you all to Susan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm just excited to have this chat. So
me too, actually.
It's been a while. So for everyone listening, Susan did an incredible class for us inside the Members Club. What year was that now? It was a
few years ago now. I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Crazy. It's gone so fast.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It was the Law of Attraction, and it is to this day still one of the most popular masterclasses. People absolutely love it. It's so good. And I think that, I love the topic of the Law of Attraction. Yeah. It's literally like one of my favorite things to talk about, because I feel like as we're building businesses, you can have all the marketing strategies and all the business strategies in the world, but if you are stuck in your own way, if you actually don't know how to let go of the resistance and start to attract what you want into your life, then it's such a struggle to make anything happen. But when you start to look at the law of attraction and do work on yourself, do that internal work, or inner work, the transformation and the speed of which you can grow and create success is just insane.
100%. Yeah.
Oh, so I just love it. So I wanted to kind of talk more first before we kind of get into, because I want to talk to you about money, the money side of things, because I know that money is an area that we have, so many people have struggles with. Right. Especially in particular, I find women in business have struggles around money, and attracting money to them and allowing abundance to flow to them. So I'm really excited to talk more about that. But I first wanted to talk to you about how you do so many cool things. Obviously you've got your business, but you also do you still do the psychic readings?
I don't do readings anymore, but that was actually a form. I did readings to kind of validate that I was actually receiving messages from my, what I call team other side.
Yeah.
So I did do readings for a while, but yeah, I developed that gift, I guess, which
I love that.
we all have in the end.
So you do all sorts of cool stuff. So I feel like it would be really cool to kind of take us back on your journey as to like how you have kind of built up this business and how you got into the law of attraction stuff in the first place.
Yeah. So it started, my last career was actually in the fashion industry. I was a designer for many, many years. And I worked for a lot of big US brands like DKNY, Banana Republic. Kate Spade was kind of my dream job at the end, where I was a handbag designer. And it was a very big job. I was a design director, and I had used all of my mindset and law of attraction, learnings to create this success in the fashion industry. And I had gotten started because I was always told, by my little sister especially, like, Susie always gets what she wants. She always gets what she wants. And that was kind of reinforced in my mind growing up. And I would think about it, like, well, why do I, and I had always had a really strong, vivid imagination. Being an artist and a designer, it was just very natural to me. And I would think about things or draw things and they would happen. And I thought I was just some special magical being for most of my life, until I finally realized, as I got into maybe I think it was around 18 or 19, my mom had a book, Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain, one of the most famous books. And I realized, I'm not the only person that does this, right? It's actually something that we all can do. And that kind of led me down the path. And as I went into the fashion industry in my early 20s, I started to really dive into it a little bit more and use it more intentionally. And, I'm a big writer, journaler. It's how I start my day since around 18 or 19. I call it coffee time. And I would start my day before work with my AM routine, which was basically me time, where I did whatever I wanted. And a lot of times that would be just visualizing what I wanted. And then I would wrap it up, let it go, and then go into my work day and do things, that I loved or didn't love. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But when I was doing things I loved, things would happen really fast. And before I knew it, I was in this rhythm and flow of things manifesting for me. So I did that I climbed the corporate ladder really fast. And when I got to the top, and I had the success, I had the accolades, I had the title, I had the money, I had the cool apartment in New York City and the cool neighborhood, all the clothes, traveling around the world for work, all of it. And I was so miserable and so burnt to a crisp. And I would look around, and there were only two women ahead of me, the VP and the head of everything, the CCO. And I didn't want either one of their jobs. I was so exhausted that even when I did have time off, which was rare, I couldn't enjoy anything that I had created for myself. And I realized that I just didn't want any of this. So that I also started having health problems too from the burnout. So that kind of led me into the coaching sphere. And when I finally bit the bullet in 2012, I left, went into health coaching. And, I started looking back, like, why did this work for me sometimes, where I would manifest something and I would feel really happy, and other times where I created this whole life that I thought I wanted, and then I was so unfulfilled, so miserable, couldn't enjoy any of it at the end, even though it was technically abundant. And, if you looked on paper, it looked really good, but inside I felt no different then than I did before I had all of that. And what I realized as I started to go into business for myself, my health coaching calls would often turn into talking about this kind of stuff. We'd move from health to this. And what I started to realize was that freedom, what I was really seeking was freedom. It was creative freedom. Like, I felt so trapped, and I started to see it in all areas of my life. Right? It was just being reflected back to me. And that freedom that I was seeking, I was never going to get from any of those things. And it wasn't that those things were bad per se. It's just however you feel on the inside when you're intending a goal or intending something you want to manifest is going to be the same when you manifest it if you don't do that inner work.
Yeah, that is so interesting. And I think so many people will relate to what you're saying about thinking they want something and setting goals and going for it and then getting that thing and feeling utterly unfulfilled. It's like, I suppose it's kind of similar to all the famous people we hear of who strive to be famous and strive to do all that stuff and then they're utterly, utterly miserable, and they realize that's not where their sense of fulfillment comes from, which is really kind of confusing.
It is.
Firstly, like, how did you have the guts to leave such a successful career? Because I know that is also something that people struggle with, actually making that decision that, wait a sec, this isn't what I want for my life. Like, how did you do that?
That's the biggest thing, I think, a lot of the women that I work with, whether they're coming out of a career like mine or they've created an existing business, but now they want to do something else. And really, that's kind of the leap. So the leap of faith. And because I had already done this so many times in other ways, I had a lot of faith, and I had always been a high risk taker. Like, I just naturally had a lot of faith from looking back at my life and seeing like, okay, I did this and this happened and this worked out and this worked out. So I already had a baseline of I'll be supported. It does not mean that I didn't go through extreme bouts of fear. How am I going to pay my bills as my big savings was dwindling, and self-doubt and all of that. I went through all of that, right? But I had enough in order for me to leave. And there are exercises that you can do that help you do that. And that's really about rebuilding that faith in yourself. And you'll see that when you get to the core of all of this, it's really, like we were saying, how confusing it was. And it seems confusing at first, but when you get to the core of what you're really believing and why you're feeling trapped, it becomes really simple. Not always easy, but really, really simple. And as you step into that, you'll realize that you're actually, all it's about is rebuilding that self-trust. And when you have that self-trust and you start to see trust in other places, that trust is reflected back to you, right? So the universe is reflecting back that trust. Your relationships are reflecting back that trust. Your business is reflecting back that trust. Because I think one of the core things that I want your audience to understand is that we're talking about the law of attraction, but the way that I teach it, what I realize is that you're not actually getting things and bringing them to you. It's much more about reflection than it is attraction. So your entire perceived reality is reflecting back your belief system. And that's going to go down to the core of whether or not you value yourself. You feel worthy, you feel enough, and you can trust that you can handle what life throws at you and that you are supported. So that's basically what I was learning to build and recognize where I already had it, where I didn't have it and needed to rebuild that both within myself and, like my savings. I blew through my savings like within the first 2 years, and I was too burnt out to ever go back to any kind of job or do anything that I didn't want to do anymore. I was way too burnt out. So it was like, I can't go that way anymore. I don't have the will to do that anymore, because that's what it takes. It's force. It's will to get up every day. I call it the red zone, where you go all in using your will and you're forcing yourself to get things done or forcing yourself to be disciplined, and it zaps your energy. And then you have to go all out because you're at such a deficit. You can't keep up with that pace. And that pattern is what I did for so long that I just couldn't do it anymore. So I was like, it was like the universe was forcing me to find another way in a sense. And I had to rely on like clients coming out of the blue. And I very rarely marketed my one-on-one business. All I did was follow my inspiration. And that's at the core of what I teach now. And I didn't know it all at the time. It was like, okay, I would find myself in a launch that I didn't plan, that, people would start coming to me, hey, do you still have this? Yeah, and I'd answer that question and it would lead somewhere else. And then all of a sudden I'm in a launch and I have a coaching group in front of me and I just made a chunk of money. And I would be like, okay, sometimes that would happen. It would be so easy, so fun, so fulfilling. And then other times I'd be like, my bank account's too low. I got to launch. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I'd be out there trying to get clients or trying to get, fill a program. And then that vibe is completely different. I'm trying to get now. It's not being reflected. So of course those launches didn't do well.
Yeah.
And as I started to realize that, I could see, it's really comes down to following my inspiration and being true to really what my intuition is telling me. And it doesn't mean it's always what you want to do, but it doesn't mean you're always going to feel like doing what you want to do. Right? So it's about letting go of what you think you should do, letting go of what you think you have to do. That's the hardest part for us coming out of, the society that we're used to, and really allowing yourself to trust and do what you want to do, or what that little nudge or that little voice is saying. Call this person, reach out to that person, and actually listening to that, instead of thinking like, well, I have to force myself to sit in this chair and write this blog post, right? There's a big difference where if you call that person, maybe they're going to offer you something that you're trying to use the blog post to get yourself.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Makes sense. So there's so many things I want to ask you following on this. One of them definitely is around following the inspiration, because I think that so many people want to know how to get in that flow and follow inspiration, literally. But the other piece I wanted to ask, and maybe you've got like a quick tip or something you can share, is for people who do have that really low self-worth or feel like they're not good enough. And quite frankly, this, I think, impacts the majority of us. Like, I know for me, it took me 3 years to start FEA because I just didn't think that I was good enough. And I kept thinking, who am I to do this? And I recently put out a post in the Facebook group, and I said, what were some of the biggest obstacles you faced when you started your business? And all of them, really, like 99% were to do with mindset.
Yeah.
Like, I was afraid that people wouldn't pay me for my services. Why would someone want to work with me? I was worried I needed more qualifications. And like, everything was a reflection back of, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I don't believe in myself enough to put myself out there. And this plagues so many of us. And it is the reason why I think so many people never go from the idea and the dream to actually turning it into a reality. So what would a tip be, or what is something that you did to help? I mean, I suppose you said that you kind of had that, a bit more of that faith in yourself, that you knew you could look back and be like, this worked, I did this worked out, I did this worked out. But for people who really do struggle with that self-worth piece, what would one quick thing be that they could do? Or it might not be quick, but...
Well, it's the same answer actually, but I'll explain how it works. So you have to rebuild that trust in yourself, because we're all born into this world in integrity. And what alignment really is when you follow your inspiration and you act on your inspiration, that you're acting from a place of alignment, you are incongruent with who you really are. Okay? That's when you do that, you are rebuilding that trust within yourself. Now, when we come into this world, we are already doing that. If you look at a child, and sometimes there are cases where abuse starts really young, or something starts really young, a child is traumatized really, really young, even up to the womb, where they don't have that much of an experience. But most children will go up until 3 or 4, where they are just playing their way through life. And what that means is they're following their inspiration, right? So they are curious about something, they go for it. They don't have resistance. They don't have fear. A child acts on every idea they have, right? And if a challenge comes up, they don't look at it as the world is attacking them, the world is crumbling in on them. They get curious about that challenge, right? They're autonomous, they're independent, they're creative, and they're learning, they're growing. And that is how we learn and grow, through play versus work, right? And it's not until something happens, usually with a primary caregiver, where the child, so say for me, my example is my earliest memory. This is kind of the work that I help people do. So my earliest memory, when I decided I wasn't good enough, was when I went outside. I was like 3 or 4 years old. I was 4 years old. I went outside and by myself, and I was just right outside playing in the dirt, but I was like around this wall. And my dad must have been freaking out, like he couldn't find me or whatever. And he came outside, and I'm literally just playing in dirt, in flow, full on flow. And from behind, he yells at me. And my dad is like this big Italian guy, very loud. So as a child, his voice is already voluminous, but when he yelled, like, what are you doing? Get inside. Like, that's how I remembered it, or whatever. It was very scary. And in that moment, I made the decision that I am unlovable. And now that seems silly, but as a child, we are completely egocentric. So we take things personally. We don't have the reasoning skills. We don't have the cognitive ability to say, oh my God, he's just freaking out because he couldn't find me, and understand that. We take it personally And it could be something as simple as that makes you decide that. So now in your head, you're doing a couple of things right now. So your conditioning is about to begin. So now you're looking for ways to get that parent to love you. So when we lose that love, and that love was taken away from ourselves, sometimes it's severe physical, sexual, emotional abuse. Sometimes it's as simple as that. I had a woman where one of her memories, she was trapped in a pants rack in a store, and that was her trauma. She couldn't find her mother, and she felt like she was abandoned, because what's happening is we're abandoning ourselves in that moment, right? So now we're looking for ways to feel that love. And it's like, okay, if I be this, then I'll get that love. If I be this, then I'll get that love. If I do this the way my dad does it, then he'll love me. And it creates this pattern. It's essentially a trauma that creates a pattern where now that is reflected back to us, a pattern of seeking validation and that love from the outside. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that trust in ourselves has been broken. And what is confidence? Confidence is intense trust, right? So our confidence is broken. Now we feel like we have to perform and do different things in order to be a right human being. And that was one memory, but then you'll find that there are actually several other things that have happened after that to reinforce that belief. Because once we decide to believe something, our brain naturally looks out there to reinforce it. But it's your choice. You get to decide. It's just we're unaware of that and unconscious of that at that very young age. So that's what creates that red zone pattern that I was talking about, where we're using our will to, I wanted to prove. I didn't know all of this at the time. This is after, doing all of the inner work that I've done. I didn't know I was doing this, but I was trying to prove myself and have that validation by being successful in my career the way that I was doing. And so many people in our society and culture do that, right? It's egoic success. It's the ego driving the show versus the soul. When you're following your inspiration, that's your soul driving the show. The soul doesn't give a shit what other people think. The soul is like, you're here to do this. You're going to love this. It's going to feel so good. And it wants you to go in this direction. But because of those little traumas when we're young, and they're not little, it's everything actually, believing, you're not worthy of love if you are a certain way, you stop following your inspiration. So that was the beginning of me not trusting myself to follow that inspiration, to go outside and play in the dirt that way.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Do you think that people can start to then simply make the decision to choose different beliefs, to choose different thoughts, to choose to trust themselves, and just even start to have that conversation with themselves?
Absolutely. So here's the thing though, and this is why it's tricky, because that was a decision, right? And deciding that I am lovable is the opposite decision. But now your behavior has to reflect that decision in order for you to rebuild that trust. So essentially what I'm saying is self-love is what will heal. Okay. I use that word lightly. Return you to it. Self-love is the belief that you matter. Self-love is the belief that your gifts matter, that your talents matter, that your expertise matters, that how you feel matters emotionally and physical, that you matter, that your needs need to be met so you can be the person you came here to be. That's the belief that you matter. Self-care is behavior that shows, that reflects that you have that belief. So you can decide, I love myself, I'm worthy, but your behavior can show the opposite. So if you look at what you're doing and think about like everything being reflected back to you, does this behavior say I matter? When you're sitting there forcing yourself to keep working and you have to pee or you have to eat or you're ignoring, a relationship or your kid or whatever it is, and these are the things that are really important to you, but you feel like I have to finish working because I have to make money. You're saying, I don't matter. If you are not putting yourself out there because you're afraid of, backlash or whatever, all of our fears that we have around putting ourselves out there and putting our work out there, you are saying, I don't matter. That's your soul that wants to be expressed. And every time you do that, you chip away at that trust. And that little girl inside of you, your soul, the essence of you, stops trusting you that you're actually going to follow through with all of the things that you want to do. And she's literally trapped in there. And that's why we don't feel free.
Yeah, makes so much sense.
Yeah. So as you do that, as you take those steps to say, I matter, and you do it in the moment, right? It's actually how you get into flow. So I remember my team on their side, my guides or whatever, I hear them sometimes, and they helped me create this and learn this for myself. And a lot of the times I would hear them say, relax and have fun, and relax and have fun. I'd be like, how am I supposed to relax and have fun? I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do that. How am I supposed to relax and have fun right now? But really, that is the answer.
Yeah.
First, you have to relax. You can't have fun if you are not relaxed, right? Your system has to be in the parasympathetic state instead of the sympathetic state, which most of us live in. You have to be relaxed and your guard down. If you are not relaxed and in a state of peace or wholeness, at ease is what I teach. If you're not feeling at ease, you can't find joy in things. You're stuck in overwhelm and frustration and anger and deeper rage and all of that crap that's underneath there, shame and guilt and all of it, right? Pulling you down, the downward spiral. That makes your system stressed out. That makes you not be able to fully relax, and you can't fully let your guard down, because in order to follow your inspiration, in order to even receive inspiration, you have to feel safe to let your guard down. Mm-hmm. And what happens when that love is taken away from ourselves, we no longer feel safe to let our guard down. Love, safety, and connection, the two things that you need in order to receive inspiration, come from love. And as children, as infants, we know our needs will be met because we feel that unconditional love from our parents. So if that unconditional love is taken away, now we feel like we have to do it. We're on our own. We can't trust that. That's not safe. And that's how we get into these overachieving, overworking patterns where we're not letting ourselves actually do what we want or follow our inspiration, because it's just not safe anymore.
Yeah. It makes complete sense. And I feel like, when you said, when you actually relax and have fun, it is the answer. It's so true. So the past couple of years, I went through this phase of I just wasn't listening to myself. It was like I got stuck in work really hard. I think what happened is I reached a level of success in the business, and it was like, right, I need to get to the next level now. And I felt I had this thought, what got me here won't get me there. What got me here won't get me there. And I felt like I need to get this in place, this in place, this in place. And all of a sudden I detached from my creative side and the stuff that lit me up and inspired me, and started to focus on stuff that felt heavy, overwhelming. And I felt so overwhelmed and so stuck. And it was really funny because, well, it's not really funny, but I remember writing in a journal and saying how I felt really overwhelmed and stuck. And then I flicked through the journal, and I realized like 2 years to the day or something that I was writing, I had practically said the exact same thing. And I realized for this 2 years, I have been stuck in this space of push and push and force and force. And I felt like I would say repeat phrases. I'm pushing water up a hill. I feel like I'm stuck in the mud. I feel like I'm going in circles. And that was like the mantra that it felt so heavy. And then I've done a lot of work this year to get out of that, because I got so fed up. And it was like exactly what you said, giving myself permission to just let it go and stop forcing and just have fun and relax and get back to this little voice inside of me that had been desperately trying to speak up, that I was pushing down and down and down. And it's funny because then it's in the moment when you let go and relax and decide to have fun that actually the inspiration starts to flow. You start to feel really good. Momentum builds, opportunities arise, and everything just falls into place. And you're just like, what the hell was I doing these previous 2 years making this so damn hard for myself? It's crazy. And it's just, but I mean, I love all mindset work. I love the inner work. For me, it is so important, but I fall off the bandwagon, probably like everyone else falls off the bandwagon at times. And so this is why I just love talking about it, because you can make shifts that can have a profound impact relatively quickly, like
very quickly.
Yeah. and it just changes your entire life.
Yes.
So can we talk more about then getting into a state where inspiration is like flowing and inspiration's kind of leading the way?
Yes. So inspiration isn't something you wait for. It's something you connect to. Okay. The vehicle to connect to it is through getting yourself in a state of relaxation. And I don't just mean the mind, I mean your body. Like, are you eating sugar? Are you drinking a lot of caffeine? Are you completely ungrounded? Are you not moving enough? All of these things ground you and help you embody your body and get out of your head. Right. And then there's also the mental piece as well, anxious thoughts, all of that. But a lot of times doing that grounding embodiment work will help alleviate the mental piece. So your mind can relax as well. Okay. Once you're in a state of relaxation, you literally, out of what's available to you, what is the most exciting thing? What is the most exciting thing? So you can do this in a broad sense. Like, I wake up and I do this sometimes in a broad sense. Sometimes I'll be working on, like, I'm creating that product that I told you about for my program. And, there are certain pieces to it. And I'm like, okay, out of all of these pieces, I want to bring this product to life. What is the most exciting to me? And it's not necessarily in chronological order. Sometimes it makes no sense. Sometimes it's like, oh, I really want to watch this Netflix movie, right? And it makes no sense. And I have to trust that that's the right direction. And then when I follow through that inspiration for, what's most exciting, it's like, oh, okay, another piece of the puzzle drops in. Or maybe I'm just having a good time, and then team other side, everyone has a team other side, the next piece of the puzzle can drop in. They can't, all that is can't inspire you if you are not at a certain space with your energy. So that's why your self-care, when people say, you need to prioritize yourself, you need to prioritize alignment, I feel like not enough people really explain what that means. Mm-hmm. And what that means is you need to actually prioritize having your body relax in a parasympathetic state and prioritize what is most exciting to you in that moment. Sometimes it's a nap. Sometimes it's to call someone. Sometimes it's to write the blog post. It's like I still have coffee time every morning, and that's primarily when I do any work. And that work rarely looks at like me sitting at a computer. I'm rarely at a computer. I do my work in my journal. I have boards that I use. I do things by hand because that's fun for me. I like to use Post-its and markers and, images as I put stuff together, and I take my notes from my journals. And even, when I'm creating a physical product and for my digital program, even when I'm doing that, putting it in the computer is the last piece because it's fun for me to do things by hand first, where I feel like the computer narrows my focus and I stop getting those little pieces of inspiration. So I could be like making things look pretty, right? Which has nothing to do with actually completing my work task. But by me doing that, just because it felt fun in the moment, I get a hit of inspiration that's like, put this in, say this, do this, or I'm on my walk in the morning with my coffee time, and I just take a nice walk and I'm listening to the birds and I'm enjoying, the breeze or whatever. And boom, it hits me, because you have to be out of your head to receive inspiration. You have to, and you said it in the very beginning of this conversation, how do we get out of our own way? And that's really all it's about, is getting out of your own way. When we don't feel safe in the world, which having the belief that you are unlovable or not enough in some way creates that lack of safety, it makes you stay up in your head because you feel like you have to be on guard all the time. You feel like you have to take care of everyone, take care of everything, make sure things don't crumble, make sure you have the money, make sure, you're in survival mode, essentially. Yeah. And in order to get back into flow, you have to do the things that get you out of your head, which get you out of your own way, so that inspiration can strike. But the thing is the inspiration striking isn't enough. You have to follow through on the inspiration. And sometimes what you get is scary. Sometimes what you get, it doesn't make sense, like I said, or they might want you to post something, right? And you're like, oh, I don't want to say that. I have to say that. You know what I mean? Like, what if this happens? What if this person thinks this? And you start to go down that thing. That's why it's so important to act as you're inspired, because when you're in inspiration, there is no fear. As soon as you creep up into your head, the fear sets in. In spirit. Inspiration is in spirit. You are whole. You are connected. You are one with all that is. There is no fear. But as soon as you hesitate, doubt, you start to bring yourself down, and then the thoughts start, and then you don't, and you'll say, oh, I'll do it later. Or, maybe I'll do it next week, or let me just polish it up, or say it this way. Or, you start to try to control it again because you don't feel safe.
It's so powerful. I feel like we need to give everyone a challenge so that they can start to do this. Like, even if it's just for the next 7 days, it's like being more intentional of getting out and doing things that feel good, and creating, for me, it felt like it's creating the space to give myself permission to, I don't know.
But here's the thing, don't complicate it.
Yeah.
Don't complicate it, because that's what we tend to do. Yeah, I know I have done it. I'll be like, okay, I got to make this ease really hard. How can I structure it? How can I, we start to try to control it or make it happen, when if you just remember, relax and have fun, act on the inspiration.
Yeah.
You relax and have fun until that inspiration hits you. And here's the problem though. It's very scary to relax and have fun. Especially a lot of the women I work with are classic, high achieving women, type A personality. It's very hard to take the nap when you're thinking well, I got to do this, I got to do that. You're not fully letting yourself take the nap. You have to fully go there. Fully be embodied in whatever it is that you truly want to do in that moment to help you get out of your head, and not worry about I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough. That's where it gets tricky. So like you were saying though, I feel like for anyone who wants to practice this, do it in a space where there's no threat. So I live my life this way, right? But like I said in the beginning, in order for me to take that leap from, my stable career, which actually is never even stable. It's all an illusion, right? Yeah. But for me to take that leap into doing my own thing, I had looked back, right? You have a lot of trust and faith in hindsight. So if you look back, and I was like, okay, when I did this worked. So let me start experimenting. And I would experiment with this or experiment with that. Things that weren't so threatening, right? You can totally step into it, but you don't have to, do it on a weekend when you feel like you don't have a lot going on, and see what happens. Play with it there. Do it, with a project that doesn't feel so demanding in the moment. There are little pockets where you can start doing it, where you can see oh my God, that worked out. Oh, look at that. That worked out. And you'll start to see the miracles. And what a miracle really is I have in my 2 programs, the one focuses on what I call Manny wins. So what you're manifesting, right? And it's oh, Manny win, I wanted to get this car and now I have it. It's a thing that you manifested. Right? Miracles, which is in my secondary program, the Easy Money program, is all about letting go of the hows, right? A miracle is when you focus on relaxing and having fun and following through on your inspiration, and the universe somehow, some magical way, took care of all those things you were worried about how it was going to happen, or the other stuff you had to do was taken care of for you. So as you start to see that being done for you, it starts to rebuild. It helps you go your way and let them do their thing. And then all of that trust is being rebuilt. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. And I totally agree with everything that you said. And I love it. And exactly what you said, it's being the reflection for what it is that you want to attract and receive. And
that comes back to the money piece.
Yeah.
So, something that I always say is the universe will treat you as well as you treat yourself.
That's a good one.
So if your behavior says I matter, your behavior saying I'm valuable, then your money is a match to value.
Yeah.
So whatever you believe is valuable, if you believe, I believe my expertise in this is valuable, so I make money doing this. This doesn't feel like work. This is so much fun.
Yeah.
I could do this with you all day. And because I believe in my expertise, I can create products around it and receive money for it because I believe in the value. I don't need someone else to tell me that it's valuable.
Yeah.
And I don't need to do anything to prove my value, which is what I used to do, being a high achiever type A. It was like, how much, the more I do, the more I control, this is my value. So money would go to that, but you're capped because you can only do so much.
Yeah.
So it's really about, if you just remember the mantra, the universe will treat me as well as I treat myself. Does this behavior say I matter? Does this behavior say I matter? And you really follow through with that, you'll see big shifts quick.
Yeah, that is so good. Because I think, like we talked about at the beginning, people get so stuck on that money piece. And it's definitely been, I've been doing a lot of abundance work lately just because I felt like I was just really holding myself back. And I don't know. I just didn't feel abundant. It was like, how can we make all this money? And then where does this money go? Like, it felt like it was disappearing from me.
And it will.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then, so I've just been doing so much work around abundance, and it's funny because then we had our best month ever, and I didn't even try to have our best month ever. And I'm like, it's so funny. Like, this just happened. And right. And like exactly what you said, did you say this? But you become the energetic match for what it is that you want. Like, right. So that what you're putting out is reflecting back to you. And it's like, you hold the belief, or you hold true that this is what you want, this is what you value yourself at, in a way. But like what you said, is you put it so much better.
But you're saying exactly it. You're saying, like, when you have that belief that I am unlovable or I am not enough in some way, you're in a place of lack, period. Yeah. You have a lens of lack. So there is only abundance. You either have an abundance of lack or an abundance of abundance. Yeah. Right? Yeah. When you're following your inspiration, you are in integrity. You are aligned with all that is. There is no lack.
Yeah.
And that's what becomes a match to it, and the energetic match to it.
Are there any simple, quick things that people can do to like help them to, I mean, I know you've already actually shared some really helpful things about, especially around the money piece, but any quick things that people can do who are like, but how do I make the decision of like, what I'm like, with regards to like maybe how much they want to earn, or they just, I don't know, they just want to figure it out a bit more concretely in their head?
I honestly don't do that anymore. And you can do that. And certainly, like, to me, that goes back to, that's something we do a lot in my Easy Peasy LOA program. And I've done it many, many times where I'm like, I want to earn this much. And then, you still have to follow your inspiration. So it's kind of just like a decision, like, I want a $60,000 launch, say, okay. And that might be a lot to you. That might not be a lot to you, but now you have to follow your inspiration. Whatever you decide on, you have to let go and follow the inspiration. So the decision is important because it ties the intention. Like, you have to own where you are. I have 6 steps to manifesting, like a foundational piece, right? You have to own where you are, take responsibility for where you are. So you're in the power position, right? Uh-huh. You have to get clear on what you want. But really what you want, is it $60,000, or do you want the freedom that you think $60,000 will give you?
Yeah.
So really what you want is a feeling. And I'll tell you guys right now, the feeling that you want is to feel at ease, content, happy, and free at the bottom of everything else, which comes from feeling safe and connected, which comes from feeling loved, accepted as you are, allowed to be who you are. It's the absence of resistance, right? So you can do the $60,000 thing, right? So say you're clear on $60,000. Now you decide this launch is going to be $60,000. You have to believe it and then become it. Those are the next 2 steps. So become the energy of that and believe that that's possible for you. If you don't believe that you can achieve that, that's going to affect your behavior. So as you're becoming it, acting as if, as a lot of people say, right? That behavior again is going to dictate whether or not you've actually made the decision. Yes. So you can say, I decided $60,000 and then I didn't make it. But did you let go? Let it go is step 6, right? Detach from the outcome and enjoy the process. And you would do that by following your inspiration. So did you actually do that to find your way? You know, the universe will give you the way to that 60 grand or whatever it is, $6 million, whatever it is, if you let your guard down and trust that you will find your way through the inspiration instead of you trying to make it happen. Like, oh, I need to do more Facebook ads. Oh, I need to do that. And Facebook ads, you might be inspired to do a Facebook ad. Like, there's nothing wrong with Facebook ads. There's nothing wrong with any of the marketing stuff, but it's, where is it coming from? Is it coming from inspiration and your soul? Or is it coming from the ego that's seeking the validation of I am significant, the validation that I matter, and trying to get it from the outside, from a certain, you know, or that I'm safe from the money.
Yeah.
Instead of the inspiration, which feels freeing. So it's always the same thing, no matter what you want to do. And in fact, that could be a good way for, if someone is really new to this, that could be a really good way to start practicing it, is to think about like, okay, you know, I want to manifest $5,000 out of the blue and make that decision. But then the important work is still to say like, okay, how do I feel in this moment? Your feeling is always going to tell you what you're believing. That's what emotions are for. So if you're not feeling that great about it, or if you're feeling doubt, or you're feeling overwhelmed or something, you know you're out of alignment. You're not aligned with an abundance of abundance, with all that is, right? You're aligned with lack in that moment, because all of those crappy feelings are lack feelings.
Yeah.
So ask that feeling, what am I thinking and believing to create this feeling? And you'll start to get insight around your belief. And then my behavior, you know, is my behavior, am I letting myself follow my intuition and my inspiration, or is my mind getting in the way and I'm trying to make myself get $5,000? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense to me. I think it's really interesting. And I think that what is also interesting is you talk about like at the end of it all, we want to, it's like all comes down to love and to the sense of freedom that we want to experience. And I suppose in a way, like you started off talking about how you wanted this like dream career, and you went about and you manifested it all. And we can become really great manifestors, but manifesting the wrong things. But I think that when you bring it back to following your inspiration and knowing that like the purpose, well, for me, I don't know whether this is right necessarily, but for me, I feel like the purpose is to try and live my best life and my happiest life, and to feel fulfilled and to feel at peace and to feel a sense of expansion. And so for me, for example, I know that I like pushing myself to achieve things or experiencing that achievement, because it makes me feel like I'm the sense of expansion and expanding myself, and I find a lot of fulfillment in that. But I think what you're saying is it is about getting to that place. Like, other than that, you reach that goal and it's hollow, because you thought that thing was going to bring you something that, I don't know, maybe that
you didn't do for yourself. So if you're following your inspiration, you're coming from your soul. You're coming from the literal essence, the real you. That's authenticity. If you're not following your inspiration, you are literally out of integrity and you are not being yourself. Yeah. And this is why so many of us feel like a fraud, or feel like, you know, we're not living or feel trapped, because we're actually lying to ourselves and to everyone else when we don't follow our inspiration. And when I was in fashion, my ego was manifesting. Yeah. Right. You can manifest from the ego. You can manifest from your soul. And my ego was manifesting, and I wanted those things because I thought they were going to give me that sense of fulfillment, which is to feel at ease. Yeah. Right? That's what all my stuff is about. That inner peace that we're all trying to feel, because that inner peace, that ease, to feel at ease, is the absence of lack. It's the absence of resistance. And instead, you know, when people are talking about manifesting in the law of attraction, something that I think could really help people is, everyone looks at it from like, am I thinking positive or am I thinking negative? Like that positive versus negative. And I want you to let that go and think about, am I resisting or am I allowing? Because love, the state of love, is the sensation of allowing. It's expansive. You are in acceptance. You are aligned with all that is. If you are not feeling good, you are in lack, and it feels like resistance. And that's where the force is, right? So instead of thinking like, I have to get it right, I have to be positive, and we start to try to force ourselves to be good manifestors, if you just start paying attention to in your body, what feels like resistance, what feels like allowing, you're going to get there much faster. And that's what following your inspiration or letting your soul lead the way is going to do for you versus letting your ego lead the way, your will. It's going to feel much harder.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. God, I could sit here and talk to you all day. Oh my God. I love this topic. I feel like it just is, I know I've said this already, but it's life-changing, this stuff.
It is life-changing. Yeah, 100%. Yes.
This is the key to living your best life and to creating creating an intention, being intentional about the life you're creating, but in a way that is just, like you said, so connected with yourself, so aligned with who you truly are, and getting to that place of inner peace, which is where we all want to be, really. Right.
We want to be there because we want to relax and have fun.
Yeah.
All the stuff that we're trying to manifest is then I can relax and have fun.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is relax and have fun is actually the way to get there. If you want to relax and have fun once you're there, you need to relax and have fun on the way there.
Yeah. It's such a good point. I feel like that's a perfect note to end on. We talked about so much stuff. It's been so amazing, and I'm so excited for people to take what you've said and to implement it. And obviously, I know you were saying before you're just turning your coaching program into an actual course. Is that out? I'm sure. Well, I'll leave.
Well, the course I have been doing it as a group coaching program and as a course, but now I'm making it like a product.
Okay.
So more people can do it, and I won't be coaching one-on-one or even as a group in it anymore. It'll be more of a product with a digital component to it. Yeah. Okay. So that's not out yet. That's coming out very soon.
That's exciting. Well, I will link to all of your stuff so people can check out more, because I'm sure everyone's going to be clicking through to learn more from you. And
I thought it was good.
And yeah, I would definitely recommend everyone just take action on this. And like, I don't know, it's so inspiring and it's so empowering. It's such great stuff. So thank you so much for coming and sharing. Obviously I'll leave the links, but where is the best place for people to connect with you?
To connect with me on social media, at I am Susan F on Instagram and on Facebook. So my name's Susan Ferraro. You can find me on Facebook, and then at I am Susan F on Instagram. I do a lot of lives and a lot of content there.
I bet everyone will love that. Perfect. Thank you very much. If you're listening to this over on iTunes, then head over to femaleentrepreneurs.association.com/Susan, and you will find all the links and all that good stuff. So definitely check that out. But thank you so much for chatting with me about this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Inspired, and I feel like there's so much more stuff I'm excited to even do. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
I hope you've all enjoyed listening. Definitely head over and leave a comment and let us know your thoughts and feedbacks. And definitely share if this is something you already do, or if this is something you're going to try out doing. If it is something you do, then it would be amazing to hear your stories and how this work has impacted and transformed your life. I would absolutely love it. And I will see you next week for another episode of the She Means Business Show. Bye, everyone. I hope you loved this week's episode of the She Means Business Show. If you want more help and support to build a wildly successful business, then join hundreds of thousands of women and become an FEA insider. You'll get access to some of our amazing freebies, to our bonuses, to our giveaways, to so much good stuff. Head over to femaleentrepreneurs.association.com/insider to get all of the goodness. And I will see you next week for another episode of the She Means Business Show.